Can the GeForce RTX 4090 beat the GeForce RTX 3090 Ti by a factor of 4? How does NVIDIA manipulate the numbers? With the announcement of a new generation of NVIDIA graphics chips, a curious situation has arisen. Insiders have been saying for months that we are facing the biggest breakthrough in many years, and in the end, many experts around the world believed in such statements. It didn't seem surprising that the transition from the 8nm process to the 5nm norm would provide an opportunity to increase real-world performance. But there are still architectural improvements, as well as an additional boost due to increased clock speeds of the chip and increased power consumption. In short, expectations were not far-fetched, which inspired modest optimism. Many of our readers are familiar with the results of the announcement, and yesterday we briefly discussed the unpleasant surprises from Uncle Huang, which he brought us as a bad Santa much earlier than the new year. Read about it in our article. Yesterday, the network got official tests conducted by a team of NVIDIA specialists. The GeForce RTX 4090 graphics card was used in tandem with the Core i9-12900K processor. Ray tracing has been activated and the new DLSS 3.0 zoom technology has been enabled. At first glance, there is nothing incomprehensible there. Let's get acquainted with them. So, Microsoft Flight Simulator managed to get 103 frames per second. In the popular Warhammer 40,000, Dark Tide, the frame rate reached 138 FPS. In the Unreal Engine 5 Lyra Techno demo, 155 frames per second were scored. In the new version of the F122 Racing Simulator, the video card has achieved 204 FPS. And in another Techno demo Unity Enemies, only 89 frames per second. In Cyberpunk 2077, the maximum graphics settings reached a ceiling of 141 FPS, and when activating graphics level max RT overdrive mode frame rate dropped to 90 frames per second. In an unreleased game from NVIDIA Racer RTX, 80 FPS. And in the game Justice, which is only planned to appear in stores, 81 FPS. The expected version of Portal RTX, Full RT, produces 117 frames per second. As you may have noticed, there are no comparison charts. It turns out that we saw beautiful results, but we don't know at all how good or bad they will turn out to be. Experts advise you to pay attention to the very first graph presented by NVIDIA. Unfortunately, there are not many games there, but some conclusions can be drawn. Take a closer look at Division 2 and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There is no ray tracing with DLSS 3.0 cheating technology, and the results of the GeForce RTX 3090 Ti video card are taken as 100%. It turns out that the more powerful GeForce RTX 4080 with a 256-bit bus and 16GB of video memory is 25 to 30% faster, and the GeForce RTX 4080 version on a 196-bit bus lags behind or is on par with the current super flagman. At the same time, the new king of graphics in 2022 managed to get ahead by only 45 to 55%. And that's where the fun begins. The fact is that a round of questions and answers was held on Reddit, during which representatives of NVIDIA gave answers to the most burning questions. You can get acquainted with this information yourself, and we will focus exclusively on performance. So, users, like you and me, got acquainted with the results of official tests, and before that they heard loud statements about productivity growth from 2 to 4, to 4, they just can't figure out where the truth is. Fortunately, NVIDIA experts found a simple and straightforward answer. According to them, the whole point is that the increase was calculated using the software and hardware environment. For example, without tracing, you can see an increase of 50%, but in fact this is not quite correct calculations, because you need to start tracing with DLSS 3.0. In games that are already available on the shelves, you will get a twofold increase, while in new games sharpened for new tensor cores, an increase in the number of frames reaches up to 4 times. Obviously, somewhere in between these numbers sits one Jensen Huang and applauds the skill of marketers. You will remember that the old version of DLSS 2.0 is available for the GeForce RTX 3090 Ti, which means that there is nothing strange in the fact that this scaling method will not receive any improvements in the future. Here's the math, and you're still waiting for a twofold increase in productivity in the new generation? In this case, stop doing stupid things, because nothing like this will happen.